Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to easily carve a sailor's fid. Now it's going to be a fairly simple one that's easy to make, affordable, and doesn't require any fancy tools. With this said, let's take a look at the fid, then make one. Here you can see the fid that I made. As you can see, it is fairly smooth, and it comes to a nice point, which you can use to spread apart rope when you're doing various splicings. Now the fid is made out of fairly hard wood, so it's going to last a while. I made it using very simple tools such as a knife, some sandpaper, a saw, as well as a dowel rod. Before we move on and start making our fid, let's say a few things about it. Now first off, I referred to the fid as a sailor's fid. This is because I wanted to make the distinction between this fid and other types of fids. For example, this fid is completely different than this one. So the fid that we're going to be making is used mostly for splicing rope. This fid is a belt fid used for working with leather. Now, as far as the length for our fid goes, it is usually dependent on the diameter of the rope that we're going to be splicing. So, the larger the diameter of the rope, the longer the fid. We know several lengths for a fid. A full length is 21 times the diameter of the rope, so quite a lot. A long fid is 2/3 the length of a full fid, and a short fid is 1/3 the length of a full fid. So for example, if we have a 1-inch diameter rope, we're going to need a 21-inch fid. A long fid is going to be 14 inches and a short fid is going to be 7 inches. Now the diameter of the fid is a completely different story. It is more of a personal preference, but it is still correlated to the length of the fid. So the longer the fid, the wider it's going to be. This is because we want a nice gradual taper. Now with this said, fids are historically usually made out of wood or bone. Now I'm not going to be using bone naturally, but well, we're going to limit ourselves to wood. Let's start making our fid. First off, let's discuss the setup for this project. I recommend working outside if possible, not only for the fresh air, but because, well, the shavings that come off of your dowel rod are going to fall into the grass, the mud, and well, you don't have to clean them if they're outside, and wood is not a big pollutant. I also recommend that you sit down onto a chair, since this is going to be a 10 to 20 minute job. Now, as far as the dowel rod goes, the one that I'm going to be using is a bit over 3/4 of an inch in diameter. The first tool that you're going to need is going to be a knife. I'm using a Mora Companion, and this is going to be used for the basic carving. Basically what you want is a bushcraft knife or something thick that you can use for carving. With this setup ready, let's begin. When starting your carving, you may want to mark down the length for your fid. Then, all we're going to do is remove material to get a nice taper. Basically, we're creating a pointy stick. So the stick is going to come to a point. Now your cuts should always come away from you, and you want your cuts to be of a pull sort of a cut. So you push as well as pull away. This way you remove the most material that you can using a knife. See, I'm pushing as well as pulling, but also always away from me, unless you want some scars on your hands. And always, when I'm cutting off material, I'm also rotating my dowel rod so that I get a nice and equal taper around the entire fid. Now you don't have to be super accurate, since we're going to fix everything up using some sandpaper, but well, having a nice technique will make things a lot easier in the long run. So all I'm doing is rotating and cutting away material. You will want to do long cuts that basically cover a long area just to make things a bit faster as well as more consistent. One technique that is also very handy in carving is not to use your knife to do your cut like this, but to pull the dowel rod towards you instead of using the knife to push away from you. You can use this to rest up your hand. Now once you're getting quite close to making a nice tip at the end of your dowel rod, at this point you may want to do really long cuts from the back of the fid all the way to the front just to get an equal taper. After creating a pointy stick, take a piece of rough sandpaper and sand the stick down. Then see if you have any unevenness and then correct it with a knife. After sanding our stick with some coarse sandpaper, take a finer piece of sandpaper and repeat the process. We want the stick to be as smooth as possible, and this is attained by using as smooth of a sandpaper as possible. Proceed by cutting off at the back of the fid. After sawing off the tip or the fid off of the dowel rod, we're going to fix this 90-degree bevel using our knife. Basically, we're going to make it nice and round. Again, you don't have to be terribly accurate, since we're going to fix this up using some sandpaper. I'm then going to do a final sanding, first with coarser sandpaper, then with finer sandpaper. I'm going to process both the tip as well as the back of the fid. Now they are done exactly the same way. First we do some sanding in a circular motion, like this, and then we sand towards the tip. Like this. And then the back, again circular motion, and then to the back of the fid. Finally, we're going to apply a wood finish. Now usually some sort of a glossy, shiny finish is used, but well, I don't have one. So all I'm going to be using is some linseed oil. It's not ideal, but it works. So guys, with this we came to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you were able to make your own fid. Thank you very much for joining me and see you next time.